Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for coming. We have a lot to cover, so I'll try to be very quick, and which is hard because my English is not that great. So bear with me. So if you want to follow with the slides, you can use the QR code. It should run on your phone as well, and should be easier, or if you want to store for later. So actually, sorry. Anyone still needs the link? Cool. And switching. Sweet. All right. So I'll not cover that much here. Just in addition to what was already said, I just care a lot about Python and the community. I've been here for 20 plus years, and I really care about Python, the community we built up, and actually onboarding new users and everything. So that's a lot of what I do around community and Python today. This is Chris, my co-speaker. You want to speak real quick?
Yeah, so I am from the Netherlands. So you can see the Dutch flag. We beat Italy, Brazil, and some soccer games. I care about that. I wrote PySheets just to prove that you could do a spreadsheet in Python in the browser. So I started off as a bet, almost. And it turned into a company, so I'm now also trying to sell it to people. So if you want to buy it, let me know.
Actually, I forgot to say, I'm half Brazilian and half Italian, born in Brazil. But after the finals with Germany, I only program. I don't look at soccer anymore. So hello. I usually like to spend a lot of time actually getting to know more things about you. This time we have a really short time, so I will do as we go. So just real quick, how many of you know have heard of PyScript? Cool. Almost half of the room. Out of you, so if you, this was one of the memes that came out right after we announced PyScript around 2 years ago. Right, and pretty funny. Actually, that was one of the highlights of my career, because finally my daughter saw PyScript on TikTok, and she was like, "Dad, I finally know what you do." So that was really cool. But it actually is not, I don't love that meme because it really gives the wrong signal. PyScript, the project, it doesn't aim to replace PyScript, JavaScript at all. It aims to contribute to the web ecosystem and bring Python there, and at the same time give Python superpowers to JavaScript as well. So we really aim for a collaboration of efforts. This is another meme that I found online as well, which I think captures it way better. So that is in the right direction. And I think that came out a year after, so it's good. The community is starting to see the value and the story that behind the project. This is a last one that none of them were created by me or people at the project, right? This is, I think, the flair of the Reddit community, PyScript community, which I think is perfect. It's really what we aim to do, right? You should do and choose the best tool for the job. We all know it's, most cases it's Python, but not always, right? So, and specifically, we'll cover why PyScript in a second. So I really like this one. So what is PyScript? PyScript is first and foremost a platform. In that sense, what's the difference between a platform and a framework, right? People often use those terms interchangeably. So a framework, and for our definition, a framework is a software system that allows people to, their users to write applications on top of it, right? A platform is a piece of software that allows users to write frameworks on top of it. Right, so in that sense, PyScript aims to be a foundation for apps, but also for other people to build frameworks on top of it, and we'll get there real quick. It is a framework that allows you to write Python, proper Python. There are many other projects in the past that would do transpiling Python to JavaScript and whatnot. PyScript aims to actually allow you to use full Python or a version of Python of your choice. It comes with batteries included, so everything that you have in Python you should be able to run there, with the exception of the many libraries with C dependencies and whatnot. Those need to be compiled for WASM, and there are ways to do it, but they just don't come out of the box. But if you're using one of the interpreters that we have, Pyodide, you already have a lot of the scientific stack in for you, etc. It's extensible via plugins. Actually, right now, we mainly support JavaScript plugins, so I need to change this. This is wrong. PyScript itself is a combination of plugins. For instance, our interpreters are plugins. They're not just solidified in the core of the framework itself. We offer a powerful FFI. We'll cover that in a bit. But most of it, we want to focus on humans. We want to focus on human APIs that can achieve the most with the simplest interface possible. And all you need is just a browser. So why PyScript? First of all, isn't that cool to run Python on the browser, right? So that should be a reason on itself, right? But there are a lot of other reasons as well. First of all, Python historically didn't have a great story for mobile or web or browsers, right? And I remember distinctively Russell's keynote a few years ago at PyCon highlighting the oddity of the most popular language not having a story for the most popular software and platform, hardware platforms in the world, right? So projects like PyScript or Beware, et cetera, are trying to fill that gap because, you know, if we don't, probably other languages will catch up and replace Python in the future. We need to meet our customers where they are. This is a few users trying to distribute their application, the Python application to others. This is a pretty common pattern, to be honest. It's really hard. If you missed Peter's talk this morning, he covers a lot of the pains around this, and you should check it out. PyScript being in the browser and having one platform to serve, meaning the browser VM or the WASM stack, has a lot of that covered. So we don't have to deal with supporting Windows, Linux, Mac, and things like this, right? Everything can be bundled. Now, there are other challenges that I'll cover in a second, but the distribution story is really cool. You just send a link, and it opens as an application. Security, you know, the browsers have been developing around security and have spent millions and millions of dollars around making that a platform that is a shell securing your underlying system. As PyScript apps, we can take advantage of this. So it's fairly secure in that sense. Scalability. Since PyScript code runs in the browser, means that it's distributed by nature, so, right? So even if you wrote a Hello World application or anything like this, and you serve as a web app, well, if your app is popular and you go from 100 users to 100 million users, you will probably have to scale your compute or things like this, right? It's usually not a problem with PyScript because the run code's on the client, right? Things like if you had an application that is just like a QR code scanner or an app that put mustache on top of a picture to make fun things, right? As you scale, as your app becomes popular, you will have to scale compute and other things. PyScript by nature avoid that problem in that sense. There's more to it as well. As you know, scaling comes with costs as well, right? So as you're successful on cloud platforms, you get in for very, very cheap. And as you become more successful, you need better clusters and better things. You need to pay a lot of costs. We have a bunch of use cases of running offerings, running hundreds of thousands of PyScript apps a month, and the bill is under it's under $100 or $50, right? It's really impressive the amount of compute that you can save in that way. And simplicity, like we really aim to make the framework as simple as possible for users to just focus on the problem they're trying to solve instead of the whole surrounding things like how do I distribute my code, how I compile my code, and things like that. All cool rainbows and unicorns, but there are challenges too. You know, because your app is served in real time, you need to account for bandwidth. Right? If your app uses large files or you have a lot of files in your app or you need to operate with large data sets, you need to account for loading time or downloading time. There are strategies to mitigate this, and we'll cover in a bit, but this is something that you need to care for. Security, I said earlier that it's very safe, but, well, there are security challenges of different nature. Right, so if your app needs to access APIs or databases and things like this, where you store your passwords, where you store your tokens and stuff, The browser is insecure in that sense. You can just open your developer console, look at value of variables and things like this. So there are ways to secure that there as well. We do that with PyScript.com, and I will cover in a second. There are other strategies too, but it's something that you need to take care of. Storage and persistency. The browser doesn't have really a great persistent layer for you to store files. Again, same thing here. There are mitigation plans, but it's something that you need to account for as you start your PyScript journey. So where to start? The best place really is PyScript.net, which is the homepage of the open source project. From there, you can check, have links to the documentation, a bunch of examples, have a link of to our community Discord. I highly recommend you joining. We try to be very responsive, and the community has been growing a lot recently. Follow us on our social accounts, at PyScript_dev. And you also can go to PyScript.com for free and start creating your PyScript apps right away. I'll cover that in a second as well. What do you need to do to create a PyScript app? Well, in theory, removing all the other tools, you can just open an HTML file, add those two links, those two tags, the CSS and the JavaScript file, and then you just need to tell them what do you need to run. Right? So the third thing you need to do is a script tag defining the type of interpreter you want. Py stands for Pyodide, MPy stands for MicroPython. So in this case, I'm asking to run my main Py as a bootstrap file using my interpreter MicroPython and using this config. The TOML config allows you to install dependencies, allows you to upload files in your file system, to add JavaScript dependencies and things like this, and I will cover that in a second. And if you want to start, try it out today, anytime, for free, you can go to PyScript.com. This presentation is actually running on PyScript.com. You can go there and basically start a new project. It prepares everything for you, starts the right scaffold of an application with your TOML and your Python file. It always creates a new hello world, so it's a working app. And from a new app to deploying, it's really just a link. So any new app is already ready for deployment, and you can just share things with QR code or other ways. Now, getting back to us. PyScript has been maturing a lot in those 2 years. It used to be very slow, it used to be big. We finally hired a talented web developer, and not myself. So that has been helping a lot with how do you do web. So today, it's the full bundle, PyScript plus MicroPython interpreter is around 300 kilobytes. PyScript itself should be around 70. PyScript plus Pyodide is 7 megabytes, and of course, if you start adding dependencies, this number will grow. So that's something to be careful about. Hopefully, in the future, we're going to start developing features like tree shaking and other things that the JavaScript world have been developing for years, but in the Python ecosystem, we just didn't care. So in terms of features, as I said, we try to make things as simple as possible. So if you have async code and you need to run async await stuff in your main scope of your file, or you just need to add async to your script. If you want to run this code not in the main thread, but in a parallel worker, you just add worker, and that just runs. And we also provide ways for you to actually bypass some of the browser limitations. So in theory, you shouldn't be able to change DOM elements if you're running code in a worker. We have a bunch of white magic behind the scenes for you to make it work. So you actually, in a worker, can manipulate the DOM as well. We also provide a FFI interface. So PyScript adds a layer on top of the interpreters to basically unify the interface. MicroPython has a different FFI interface than Pyodide, and we add a layer to unify the two. So in this case, I'm importing the window and the document objects from JavaScript and using them in Python to do stuff, right? And we also we are starting to create high-level APIs to support browsery things, like in this case, access to the DOM. So this is a one-to-one map to the JavaScript API. We're going to start adding more Pythonic APIs in the future. But in this case, I'm from PyScript.web, I import page, and I can just query the page for elements, can change the things, can create new elements and append to the page. This is the way I mentioned earlier where you can basically define JavaScript dependencies in your Python code. So in this case, I'm adding leaflet as a dependency in my TOML, and I can load all my JavaScript dependencies from PyScript.js modules, just like as a normal Python import, transparently. And that should work for PyDite and MicroPython as well. We also provide a Python editor element that allows you to edit and run Python in the browser. I will show you in a second when we start showing demos. We provide a bunch of additional built-ins because, hey, the browser is different and has a bunch of different use cases. So we all love the print statement. Well, when you print on the browser, where do you print? Do you print in the console? Do you print in the DOM? So just to avoid confusion, we added display. Prints to the console. Display basically displays on the DOM. I'll show that as well. And then for things like, in this case, the when decorator allows you to hook functions to specific events in the browser. So here, when the user clicks on the button with the ID my button, this event gets triggered and the code gets executed. A couple more features. There's a lot more features. If you're following the slides, you can open the docs. There's a lot more there, but we just didn't have time. It's really cool that we're starting to see a lot of new frameworks on top of PyScript. LTK is one that is based on jQuery, done by Chris, and he's going to show the coolest and more complex demo, PyScript demo you'll see so far, and it uses LTK. So we'll leave that for later. There's a new cool framework called PyBay. I don't really know a lot about it, but it gives a lot of React vibes. It feels definitely inspired by React. And this page is created with PyBay. This is how this component here is defined. And if I click here, it has a reactive component to it. They have a bunch of demos on PyScript.com that you can check out, and it actually plays well with other frameworks as well. They have an example running LTK with PyBay, Shoelace. There's a web components, this case for autocomplete, this case for using Shoelace web components to do things in the browser. So I highly recommend you check it out. Seems like a cool project. And Invent is a new experimental framework that we're developing to allow creation of PyScript applications without too much code, building up interfaces and things like this. I'll not show because of time, and also we're refactoring a lot of things. So, and then you have Beware, a very stable product that's been predates PyScript, but is using PyScript as a web for the web backend in app creation when we create a new web app with Beware. I would highly recommend check it out as well and checking the recording from Russell talk this morning. Now showtime. So this presentation is a demo in itself. It's all written in PyScript, and all you see is live Python code running, right? And the way I've created those slides is basically I have a slides.md file, and I can mix HTML with Markdown code, et cetera, and I added this PyEditor component here, and I can actually execute Python code as we're presenting, right? So in this case, I imported display, and I'm displaying my code, my text here. I'm not going to show I'm not going to show the rest of the demo because we're running short of time, and I want to give time to Chris. But you can manipulate the DOM itself, right? You can change colors and do things like this just with the PyScript.web interface. I wanted to show this example, which is a React React app using PyScript, or rather a PyScript app using React. In this case, this is all the code, Python code to actually use a React component defined in a Python function. that basically when I click this button, it triggers React and do all the trickery on the back. Now, nowadays, any demo that doesn't have AI is not cool, so we want to do cool demos. So I will change browser and use the Chrome dev build that actually integrates also a Gemini Nano in the browser. So this demo actually has 3 ways of interacting with the AI model. First one is a local one. I have a local model running on my local machine provided by this AI Navigator app that we developed at Anaconda. It allows you to run open models on your machine. So all they need to do is basically download it and run. And I can serve as an API. There's a proxy to a ChatGPT account, and Gemini is the in-browser one. So if I want to talk with Gemini and I want to ask, what was the question? You into food. It probably was going to tell me something like that. Oh, no. So I need to tell, I'm still wanting to talk with Gemini. Potato is very popular, apparently. But I can switch. I can go and say and talk to the local model that is running a Phi model locally and ask the same question. Yes, so I'm going to run. All of that running AI in the browser is pretty cool. I have a camera access example here that you should check out. I wanted to show a couple of games as well. So this is just a simple, very quick and silly game that one of our teammates developed. Everything in Python. But actually, this is a really simple, cool demo of the connections game that you've probably seen so far. You know, you can add animations and things like this. And all of it is in Python using JavaScript as well, blah, blah, blah. But the coolest demo, game demo, I would say, is Lukasz Langa. Demo that is running is using 3JS with Python to basically develop this game. And I'll stop here because I have too much fun and we don't have time. Those links around documentation and education, actually, I do have a demo with Lego robots. You can actually hook your Lego robots and actually download MicroPython to embedded devices and whatnot. The folks at Tufts, the CEO department, they've been using PyScript for the last year, working with students and robots and things like this to do really cool programming on that. I highly recommend checking that out. And without further ado, Chris, do you want to take over?
Yeah, I want to start with thanking, this is built on standing on the shoulders of giants, they say, or whatever. So the PyDye team, without PyDye team, this wouldn't be possible, so open source technologies that we rely on. And without the sponsoring from Anaconda, PyScript wouldn't exist, the continued sponsoring. So I see Peter sitting in the back. So Peter Wang, thank you.
Thank you.
So what I did is I heard about PyScript, and I was building a profiler for work. I worked at the bank at the time. And we did it in TypeScript. And I thought, like, we're a Python shop. I should be able to write it in Python. So I started playing with PyScript, and it was slow. And I had to make it faster. And I spoke with the PyDye team, and we had a lot of round trips. And I came up with a way to actually write a flame graph in Python and render it acceptably fast. So my bar was pretty high. So if you want to look at that, it's called microlog. Just search for that, and it runs in PyScript, and it renders in Canvas from Python, and it's pretty fast, I would say. And then Python came out, Microsoft came out with Python in Excel, which Anaconda also contributed to. But when I heard about Python in Excel, you run your Python scripts in Excel, but they don't really run in Excel, they run somewhere else. And I thought, like, yeah, Python in Excel, that's for losers. I'm going to write Excel in Python, right? I can use PyScript, I can write a better spreadsheet in the browser. So this is more like betting to myself that I could do this. And I started writing it. And this is what it looks like. So this page, the one in the middle, is also served up as a Python script. It runs in PyScript, but it's basically just HTML. And so there's a motivation here that explains why we're doing this. And then the try button takes me to a new page. And this launches a MicroPython VM. So we already mentioned earlier that we have two VMs in PyScript, MicroPython and PyDite. And one is really small, and the other one is big, can do everything. The small one runs really fast. So this UI is rendered with MicroPython because we want to render a sheet quickly, right? So I'll open this sheet here. What you can see is it builds up the sheet, and this is all done in Python. It renders the whole thing. And in the background, you can see it starting PyDite. Now, it takes a little longer because we're at a conference here, and some of the artifacts are taking a little longer to show. But normally, this takes around 3 seconds for the worker to come up. So I've got two VMs. You can see the bottom right. It says running MicroPython, Python 3.4.0. The UI startup took like 52 milliseconds. And then the PyDite one took a little longer. So if I refresh, we can do another timer. I do this all the time at home, like constantly refresh my page to see how fast it is. So now it's like 4 seconds. So the caches have been warmed up. So the worker is in the background. So what can you do with PySheets? You can import data from somewhere else. So let's see if the URL is still there. So I load it, and I bring up, oops, I think I clicked too many times. So what it is, this is a little preview, so I can see what this is a CSV that is turned into a pandas data frame in the worker. And then the preview is sent to me as HTML, so I'm rendering this, all done in Python, of course. And then I can say, like, import into the sheet. So I'll import it here. And yeah, no demo is complete without AI. So you see in the bottom, the top right, there's a little button appeared here that's called A1 with a star. This is not done yet with Gemini Nano, which I really want to try out locally, but this is remotely going to ChatGPT at the moment. And what it says is like, that it actually recognized that this is sort of a table, right? And you can turn this into a pandas data frame. So it made a prompt that says, like, convert the spreadsheet cells into something else, and do that here. This is not my machine, so I'm not so used to this. And another one come up. We can see like H1 here. And if I click on that, it says, you have a long press back, yeah. So it says like, visualize this thing. And of course, AIs, they break. Shit, why did it break? Oh, sorry, I have my language there. Anyway, like, beautiful, beautiful bar graph here, right? But can I do it again? Maybe, yeah, it's not going to help. Well, you saw the demo earlier. It actually worked. So try this out for yourself. What we wanted to show here is that you can start up an application really fast with MicroPython, but you can also run anything you would normally run like a Jupyter Notebook in a remote kernel, like import pandas, import matplotlib, numpy, convert your data, filter it, render it, and visualize it in your application, and then render it somewhere else. This is all possible within the browser, so you don't need a remote cloud kernels for this. I think that's one of the strengths of PyScript, is that it rethinks on how you're going to deploy your application where it executes. We're down to 1 minute, so I don't want to stay too long here. Please try it out. Go to PySheets.app and buy it. That would be even better, yes. So thank you.
All right, let's give a round of applause for our speakers. And we'll be able to take questions out in the atrium, but I'm afraid we got to start moving along for our next talk. It'll be something fun with DevOps and Kubernetes and a bunch of big, scary words I don't understand.
Thank you all. We'll be outside if you want to ask any questions. Thank you again.